Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode on the Bodybuilding News Network. As always, I'm your host, Saunch. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out the channel. If you find yourself enjoying this style of content, definitely consider subscribing. Check the description of the video for all the links to the athletes we're going to talk about today. But let's go ahead and talk about, first off, Justin Rodriguez. Now, if you do not know, Justin placing very well, top 4 at the most recent Arnold Classic. Ohio has recently announced that he's going to be returning to defend his title. One of the few title defenses we've seen recently at this year's upcoming Indy Pro, just 6 weeks out. And he's been posting some physique updates here on his Instagram. Justin IFBB is his username. And, you know, what can we say here? I think he looks phenomenal for being 6 weeks out. He looks like he took a little bit of a break coming off of that Ohio, the well-placed Ohio finish. And now he's rolling right into this Indy Pro. And guys, I think he's going to do well, like I said. He has the structure. He has the condition. There are a few competitors that are going to, how would I want to say it? There's going to be some competitors there that are going to challenge him, but I still think that he is the favorite to win this show. Now, we have yet to be able to confirm if anyone like Steve Kuklo specifically is going to jump into this show and try to nail that early Olympia qualification. But as it sits right now, Justin Rodriguez is definitely the favorite coming into this show. And that's no disrespect from the next two guys we're going to talk about who have also announced that they're going to be doing the Indy Pro here. First off, or just after talking about Justin here, blessing the Boogeyman Awodabu. We just talked about him in the last video, but he is still trending in the hashtag hot topics here of IFBB Pro news coverage. So I'm going to talk about him because he's posted a recent physique update. And he's been showing, I would say, a very balanced physique compared to last year, where a lot of the shots that he was posting last year seemed like he was hiding things, if that makes sense. Especially when we look at the back shots, he looked very shallow in some shots and just kind of underdeveloped, undersized compared to some of the other gentlemen that were on the stage last year. Now, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but looking at his most recent physique updates, it looks like Blessing has done some serious work in the offseason. And I know he's been training with Nick Walker here and there, maybe just for publicity pieces, but nevertheless, putting in the work is something I definitely think he's done. I expect him to probably land in this top 3, top 4, but it does depend on who's actually going to show up at this show. Now, another competitor that, no disrespect to him, but I am new to this competitor, is Mr. Yuman Eaton is his Instagram name, and that's actually his name. Yuman Eaton, I'm sure is how you say it, or at least somewhat close to how you say it. Now, we haven't seen this guy in a little bit from what I understand, and it looks like he actually got his pro card at the Amateur Olympia. So I'm not too sure about an Olympia debut here, but he is going to be coming into this show. And guys, when we look at his most recent, or one of his most recent physique updates, this guy looks crazy from the front. He looks really wide. He has great front lat spread, which is, by far my favorite shot now that I'm starting to get better at doing it personally. But I would say he might be a little shallow in the back. I think his legs look phenomenal. And his upper back does look good, but it does look like he might need to have a little bit more conditioning separation to show off all that hard work he's been doing in the offseason. But 6 weeks out from the Indy Pro, and he's also announced that he's going to be doing 7 weeks out from the New York Pro. So we will see plenty of him coming into this competitive season, as we are at least 2 big open shows down in the competitive calendar. So best of luck to Mr. Yuman Eaton, apologies, of course, as I butcher his name, on his prep for the Indy Pro. Now, I was watching a recent video, and there's been some conversation about Nick Walker's waistline, and that actually feeds right into his most recent Instagram post. Nick Walker here talking about how, in the off season, we want to build our physiques as much as we can, but especially when you start looking at someone like Nick Walker, who some people think he is already capped out his physique. There isn't much more for him to grow and fill out any of those missing areas. There is no missing areas for the mutant, but he's been doing his best to keep the midsection from growing too much. And I think that that's a fantastic way for Nick to look at his off-season prep coming into competing at the Olympia. He's already qualified, and he expects to at least touch the top 3 this year. But it's going to be a hard fight. Ladies and gentlemen, he has a lot of big names that he's going to need to knock off this year that, potentially weren't as sharp last year. So expect it to be an absolute uphill battle for Nick the Mutant Walker coming into this Olympia prep. But it looks like, from what we're seeing here with his most recent physique update, that Nick is doing the work that is required for him to move up in the Olympia placings. Another gentleman, as we transition to the next story, that is also doing a lot of hard work in the offseason is another competitor that is doing the hard work and putting in that work to make improvements on his placings last year at the Olympia is iainvalliere. In one of his most recent physique update photos, and more of a story than a physique update, but he's been talking about comparing last year to this year, where his, if you want to say, starting point or ending point, if you really think about it. The most recent Fuad Abiad podcast that Ian was on, he was talking about how he was hitting, those upwards 300 plus pounds, and he really wasn't wanting to add any more weight. He felt like he was definitely, like, that was his stopping point. And, I have nowhere to speak on that one. I have no idea what 300 pounds feels like. I barely know what 250 feels like. And not good 250, fat 250. So Ian has done the work this offseason, and he's ready to start his prep. I don't know if he's going to be doing any other shows besides, I believe he announced the Texas Pro. So I'm sure he's going to return to the Texas Pro and defend his title, which, as a bodybuilding fan, I like to see people defend their titles. I like to see people do shows back to back and, defend those titles. It's something you don't get to see as often as you would think. You'd think it'd be something like a big deal, but unfortunately it's not. But best of luck to iainvalliere. It looks like he's put on some serious improvement. He put on a lot of extra weight in this offseason, and I think he's going to do well coming into at least the Texas Pro. I also heard that he might be doing the Toronto Pro, so keep that in mind as well, as that show is just a little bit sooner than the Texas Pro. Now, moving into the Arnold Brazil, or the Arnold South America show coming up here in I believe it's just under 6 weeks as well. Rafael Brandao sharing some physique updates leading into one of his extra shows. Now, Raf Brandao is not a newcomer to the Arnold South America. He has won it before. He's looking to secure that title again this year for the motherland of Brazil. So expect him to do very well. I would say he's not the only big name. I've heard some other people say that he's the only person that's competing in the show with somewhat of a big name. And I would say Raf is the biggest name coming into the Arnold Brazil. But William Martins, a fellow Brazilian, is also competing in the show. And William Martins, we just talked about him recently on another episode of Bodybuilding Today, so check the channel if you want to see a little bit more about William. But he is also prepping for this show, just 6 weeks out, actually, and then he's going to roll right into the Indy Pro as well, just under 6 weeks out. So very exciting to hear that. I'm actually just figuring that out right now. I didn't realize he was doing the Indy Pro, so it's always good to check out multiple sources when you're trying to get your news, especially when we're talking about some of your favorite competitors. So make sure you stay tuned, follow the athletes on Instagram, and subscribe to the Bodybuilding News Network so you never miss any trending or hot topics, as we like to call it here on Bodybuilding Today. Now, the last story before I give the shout outs from yesterday's video or a couple days ago video, we have lucascoelhoifbbpro. I never get his name right, but this guy, he's going to be doing a show in 6 weeks, and it's under the Muscle Contest International, but I'm just not too sure which show he's doing. So if you do know and you speak Spanish, please let me know what show he's doing in the near future. But overall, I'd say he looks phenomenal. He has one of the coolest 212 physiques, really rocking a hard vacuum and bringing a lot of aesthetics to somewhat of a, I would say sometimes blocky physique, but something that's nice about 212 is a lot of the competitors that transition into the 212 are classic, or natural, or not natural, but they're originally classic physique competitors. So you usually get a lot of that handoff of those physiques. And I think that Lucas does a phenomenal job of blending the line of classic and 212, putting the mass on, but still presenting it in a very aesthetic nature. So lastly, ladies and gentlemen, if you are still here, I do want to thank some of the commenters from last video. We have quite a few of the big hitters of our frequent flyers, of our super fans, but also K Barbies 1, Jonathan Williams, and David Favier. Now, David, I've seen you comment a few times, so brother, I do appreciate you stopping by. And Jonathan Williams, I've seen you as well a couple times. So I always appreciate the conversations we have in the comment sections below, and please continue to do so. That's honestly the main reason I do this, do these stories. And also our big super fans, AS, James, Chris Bates, Billy the Homie. Now, we also had Mark Whaley. He's kind of a funny guy. He's been doing a lot of algorithm bump comments, so I do appreciate that fun you've been doing there. And then also Mark's Max Muscle, one of the best YouTubers in my opinion, and one of my favorites to watch, also commented. So it looks like he's going to be hopping in with us on our next Friday, Fan Friday, where we're going to be doing a live stream 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you are interested and you want to participate, definitely do. I will be posting a picture in our story, so you guys can comment your questions if you have any comments, questions, or concerns. But that'll do it, ladies and gentlemen, for another episode on the Bodybuilding News Network. As always, I'm your host, Saunch. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out the video. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and let me know what you guys want to see, you guys and gals, in the comment sections below. And I'll see you in the next one.